Good morning, everyone. I don't actually mind being called a GeoGeek. I'm one of those odd people who liked doing geography at school and then went on to do it at college. And I actually have a degree in geography, and I started working in geography after I graduated, and I built a career in it ever since. Of course, geography now is much different than what it was when I started. We've left the era of paper maps behind us, and we're now in the era of digital geography with fast, slippy maps on our web browsers and on our mobile phones. And the company that I work for works with people who seek to get some sort of business advantage out of that technology and how they can use geography. So I class myself as a professional geographer. I have a 13-year-old son. He's not too impressed with that career choice. He told me recently that he was looking at a list of the 100 least stressful jobs in the world, and geographer was 10th on the list. So that obviously didn't include the public speaking element. But today, I have about 15 or 20 minutes, I think, just to give you some thoughts and maybe plant some ideas in your head of how geography can be used and might be useful to your businesses. I'm also interactive here rather than a slide presentation, so bear with me as I go through this. So we actually work with about 350 organizations in Ireland and about 350,000 worldwide that use geography as part of their everyday, day-to-day business. And I can tell you that nearly every service, if not every service that arrives at your door uses digital geography to arrive there in the most optimal fashion. So we work with the people who collect your bins, we work with the people who pipe the water into your house and pipe the foul water away from your house. We work with government agencies that are involved in planning the environment around you, both the physical built environment and the natural environment. We work with people who manage emergency situations. And they've all found an advantage in geography. They've all come to an understanding that maps make sense when you're trying to understand a complex world. A map is a fantastic document, be it a paper document or a digital document. You can stand around it, you can point at it, you can see patterns and trends and information in a map that you can't see in any other form of document. It's the ultimate infographic and always has been. Maps have been around since the early Middle Ages, remember. And I don't think there's any one medium that can convey so much information on a single sheet of paper as a map. So this is a map. This is a digital map of, in this case, the Dublin area. And this is the sort of map that I work with. We're now used to seeing maps on our screens and maps on our mobile devices. And typically we're looking at a map like this that has what we call reference or background information on it. So this is a backdrop map. So for instance, we can overlay another map on top of this, and the computer is able to mash up these two things to give us now a geological map of the Dublin area. And these maps are connected to databases. So when I click on a feature on the map, it tells me something about itself. So it's not a dumb map, it's actually a smart map, an intelligent map. And we can use the hyperlink capability of the web to get more information about that feature. So we can endlessly hyperlink and database query to a world of information that's presented to us in map form. In this case, flood risk. So this shows me the likelihood of flooding in the Dublin area. And if I stick on roughly where my house is there and zoom to that, you can see I'm in a flood zone, that dark blue area. And as a result, my insurance premium is about twice what it should be. So all the time, businesses like insurance and retail are making decisions about us and how to market to us based on what they see on this sort of map. We can also start to get into socioeconomics. So this is information from the census, and this is showing me the proportion of the population aged 65 and over in any of these areas on the map. And that might be of interest to me if I'm selling, for instance, health insurance. Or if I want to sell nappies, I might be more interested in the population aged 0 to 14. So I can start to profile areas based on the potential market that's in those areas. factors. This is an interesting map from the All-Ireland Research Observatory in Maynooth. And it shows how easy it is to access retail outlets from your location. With the red zones being, you can get there within 0 to 5 minutes, and the blue zones, it's 30 minutes plus. So this is like a hotspot, not spot map of retail access for Ireland. And you can see this sort of information is dynamite, really, when you think about it. And they've got a whole load of these, how easy it is to access hospitals and fire stations, police stations, etc. We can also look at factors such as affluence and deprivation across the country. So I can click on one of these polygons, and it'll tell me how that particular small area ranks in terms of really how rich or how poor the people are in that particular area. And this information that I'm showing you, apart from the flood risk, all of this is open data, right? So this information is readily available. And other information is available from commercial providers, such as in this case, purchasing power per capita, and the types of things that people in these areas spend their money on in a whole lot of different categories. So this type of technique of overlaying different pieces of information onto the map and then drilling down or doing an identify operation on that location is fundamental to digital geography. The other first law of geography, and I can let you in a little secret, there is no second law, this is it, is that we're much more interested in things that are close to us. So all things being equal, our propensity to travel through time and space to acquire a good or service is based on how far away from us it is. So we will always go to the nearest, all other things being equal. Now, all other things are rarely equal, but the principle still applies. And retailers attract us to their locations based on what they have to sell. We might be prepared to go 10 minutes to a Tesco store. We might be prepared to go 15 or 20 to a discounter or to a premium store. So using a digital map, we can actually model that distance decay principle. So if we go back to roughly where my house is, I can calculate how far I can actually travel within a 20-minute drive time in my car. If that was a warehouse, I could calculate how far a truck could get in 20 minutes from that warehouse and how many people it could service. In fact, it's the same as a car in this case, but in other cases it may not be because trucks have different characteristics of traveling through the network. I can also look at how far I can get at 8:30 on a Monday morning when the traffic conditions are different, and you can see that's a much smaller area of travel that I have available to me. So using these sort of technologies, what sort of questions can we answer? Well, the fundamental one is, where is stuff, right? Where are my assets, my staff, my customers, my resources, my installations, my plant? What's the nearest one of those, either to me or to the customer I'm trying to serve? How likely is that customer to travel to that resource, or how likely is that resource, how easy is it for that resource to get to that customer? What assets and resources are my customers connected to? In the case of a company like eircom, this is very important. So what actual parts of the physical built network are you connected to? If Irish Water turn off a valve, what customers is that going to actually affect on the network? A little bit of what I've shown you, what are the characteristics of the locale in which my assets, resources, and customers are located, and what can that tell me about those customers? And finally, if I want to route an operative, maybe a field crew, to a series of customers, what's the most efficient way of doing that? So these are all digital geography questions. So one of the issues that we've had in Ireland up until, well, we still have it, it's about to go away, I hope, is that we have a very poor addressing system. Does anybody in the audience come from an area outside Dublin, in the country somewhere? Does any of you live in what's called a townland? So you have the same address as maybe 60 of your neighbors, right? So I don't know where you are. I can't drop your PIN onto the map. That's always been a problem. The solution to that problem is a system called eircodes, which is about to be released. You may have heard of this system. It's a postcode system for Ireland. And eircodes are going to provide every property in Ireland with a unique code. something like the ones on this slide. And that unique code is going to resolve to a unique XY location on the surface of the Earth, a latitude, longitude location. And I'm going to be able to use that to plot those previously fuzzy or unresolved addresses. And via that, I'm going to be able to get at all that information that I just showed you that's in those map overlays. So that's a fundamental advantage that we're now going to have with air codes. Air codes are what you might call a public key to an exact location, because you are all going to know your air codes. They're going to be sent out to you. You're going to get fridge magnets or stickers or something that's going to keep them in your head. And increasingly now, people are going to ask you for your air codes when they're providing you with the good or service. So this is a typical Excel spreadsheet. It's got locations in it which have air codes. I've made up the information, but the actual locations is correct. And what I want to do is I want to put a map into this spreadsheet. Just takes a moment. So I want to map this table using the air code. And if you follow the little dialogue here, what I need to do is tell the system that actually my coordinates are air codes. And they're in this field, air code, in my spreadsheet. And I want to map the Tesco turnover spurious in 2013. And I want to use this style. And it drops those onto the map, right? So any set of air-coded locations I can drop onto the map like that and then use via my overlay principle to drill down into the information that's held behind those features. And I can look at that map in various different ways. For instance, I can turn on a heat map, which will show me how easy it is to access, in this case, Tesco services across the country and where the hotspots and not spots for Tesco's actually are. I can also pick on an individual store here, and the system will render the information from the spreadsheet about that store. But I can ask for more information. So here I can create a report, and this time I'm going to look at a drive time of 15 minutes around that store. Because what I want to know is what the market size that's sustaining that store is. So it comes back with a report of everything that's within a 15-minute drive time of that store. And I want to draw your attention to one of the statistics on here, which is this one, that within a 15-minute drive time, there's approximately 3,000 households within a 15-minute drive time of that store. So that gives me a target. I know that that store is actually the smallest store in the Tesco chain. So I'm assuming that's the minimum viable amount of houses that need to be within a 15-minute drive time in order to have a viable store. Sorry. If I go back to the map, I can then look at where competitors are located. So I can see that there's plenty of competition for Tesco from Lidl and Aldi. And in fact, I can build my 10-kilometer, 10-minute drive time around those stores. And I can just count the number of competitors that are within those areas to give me a competitive index for each one of my stores. So you can see that out here, it's not too competitive. In the Dublin area, it's very competitive. Right? I've got maybe upwards of 30 competitors within my target drive time. If I go back out to Castlebar, it's pretty nice out there. I can make money while the sun shines. So I want to go to I want to go to West Cork, where you might remember, if you remember the heat map, there's a big gap down here, right? Looks like an area where there's not much heat and there are no Tesco locations and not many competitor locations. So if we go in here to Ballydehob, we can drop in a what-if sort of store in there, and we can build a drive time of 15 minutes around that. And the actual count of households that's within that location, within that drive time, is just about the same as our threshold. So we could make an assumption here that there's a viable store location at that place in Ballydehob. And I can actually go further than that and bring in information about planning from the Department of Environment and find out that near to where I'm planning that store, there's an area that is zoned for potential redevelopment. So not only have I got a viable store, I've actually got somewhere to build it. So that's a typical scenario that a retail organization might go through when deciding where to place a service. And not just retail organizations, we see government organizations doing very similar operations, because they all want to optimize how they deliver service to customers based on distance. I'm not going to go through this scenario, but I'm just going to mention it, that the other thing people want to do is actually efficiently route deliveries to those customers. And again, the map can be used to say we have a warehouse here and we have 20 vehicles. How can I efficiently develop a set of routes for a set of deliveries today to go to those locations? The map will tell me what those routes need to be, how they're assigned to the vans, what the stops on those routes actually are, who's going to get delivery. And because I only have 20 vehicles, I can't deliver to all those locations. So what's the overflow from today that needs to go into tomorrow? So I'm going to finish, but I hope I've given you a little bit of insight into how geography can be used to make sense of the environment that we're in, and how air codes play a role, or will play a role, in understanding how to turn addresses into locations that then give us business insight. Thank you very much.
That's great. Thank you, Eamonn.